start, if we may, employment's becoming a big issue.
So Labor has recognised that this really has to be a big bit of policy work that we lead. The current government doesn't seem interested at all in looking at what the future will hold for people and how we prepare people for that. We know that the labour market is really different now than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. People change their job much more often. We've got a benefit system that doesn't recognise that, and we've got a training system that doesn't recognise that. So we're leaving our current and future workforce unprepared for what they might face. So we're doing a lot of work in this space. We've got some experts from around the country and internationally who are helping us with that, looking at how we can make sure that even if people have to change jobs, that they're able to do that, they're able to get into training, get on a path of a new career, even if that one might not be permanent, without the significant interruptions they currently have.
Is that going to take a lot of work?
We've been doing a lot of work around it already. There's just been a big conference this week, and hopefully we'll be able to come out with some next position papers over the next 3 to 6 months.
Now, dairying is obviously going to drop a whole lot of people onto the labour market as well.
What's happening in the dairy industry is really sad, and I know that some people are being quite cynical in their response, and I don't agree with that. I think that people who have invested heavily in dairy have put their own lives on the line, and that we should, as a nation, be there to support them when things go wrong. Nobody anticipated the plummet in dairy payments that we're currently experiencing, and it doesn't look as if this is an issue that's going to come right in the short term, maybe not even in the long term. We've got a lot more suppliers of milk than we had in the past. Our competition is fiercer, and there just isn't the capacity to absorb that amount of milk internationally. What Labor said to the government was that this isn't just about the dairy farmers, but that's significant enough. The flow-on impact on our towns and cities from having that reduction in cash is huge. It's one of the biggest challenges our economy has faced. We think there is a role for government to work alongside the banks, to work alongside the training organisations to say, what is going to happen to these people in the financial predicament they're in. We approached the government and said, there is a bit of a crisis in the dairy industry. You should put your hand up to help, and they said no. I think that was the wrong response. So if we've got 100,000 small businesses who are going to be directly impacted to the point of closure because of the dairy crisis, then this is a situation the government should be actively involved in.
So what do you suggest should happen? I mean, are you talking tax cuts or what?
That's probably quite a blunt-end solution. We need to look at the individual circumstances that dairy farmers are in, and probably how many of them might need to diversify and what support they could be given for that. If dairy isn't going to be sustainable long term, why would we prop them up now? Some of them will have to come to the realisation that there isn't a future in that business. A lot of the banks are only doing short-term fixes. That's not going to help. A lot of them are saying you can have a mortgage break, but by the way, we're going to keep on putting on the interest in the meantime. That's not going to help them longer term either. So if the money isn't going to be there for them in their current business, and it's going to have a huge impact on the New Zealand economy, there should be a role for government to step in and support them.
And of course Landcorp have led by example by not doing a big dairy conversion.
Absolutely, that was thank goodness, a sensible decision they made. They almost went into dairying, which I thought was a very unusual role for them to be taking, but they've seen the error of that proposal and made a wiser solution. That might be the answer for a lot of our dairy farmers.
Now TPP is still rattling around the hills.
Well, there's a roadshow going on around the country at the moment to explain to people more details about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Labor's always been the party that supports trade. We know that that's the only way that our economy can survive. We haven't got enough people in New Zealand to consume all the products that we want to manufacture. So we're strong supporters of trade, but the TPP is more than just a trade deal. It has a lot of other fishhooks in it that we think were unnecessary. Other countries got exemptions from the things that we are saying the New Zealand government should not have signed up to. So this wasn't a deal breaker. We could have had better protection for Farmek. We could have had provision that we could make our own laws so that, for example, we could say a non-New Zealand resident cannot buy residential property here. Other countries have done it and still signed up to the TPP, but this government chose not to go down that path. The benefits of TPP are great for those who will benefit from it. We support that, but the downsides are just too much for us. So we'll be opposing the legislation. Quite unusual for Labour to oppose a trade deal, but as I say, this is much more than just a trade deal.
So if you became the government, would you not sign it?
It should be over and done by then. We want to retain the right to make our sovereign law in New Zealand. The TPP threatens that. We're still not clear on the details of Whāmek. If the patent lasts longer, as the Americans are saying it does under TPP, that will be 3 years more that New Zealanders will have to wait until we can get generic drugs on our market. The reason that our drugs are so cheap through Whāmek compared to many other countries is because we've got that 5-year limit on brand drugs. So we want to retain that until we see the final shape of what is, signed by all the countries. America still has to go through that process, and they've got their own elections to go through before then, so we don't know where it's going to end up. But we won't comply with the parts of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement that we don't agree with.
Yeah, and that is the other thing I was going to ask you. What's likely to happen as far as New Zealand is concerned, whatever the situation is with the United States elections?
Well, I guess I'm as surprised as many people are, not just in New Zealand but around the world, that it looks like Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States. Heaven only knows what that will mean, actually. It's really hard to imagine how much of the things he says he will do that he would actually do, or what other ideas he might come up with, and I don't know what the presidential election, regardless of whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, will mean for the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement.